There are things we always know, yet deliberately ignore. That time is not infinite, that tomorrow is not guaranteed. We live as if we are immortal, as if there will always be a later to start truly living. But one day, the truth arrives. We cannot turn back time, cannot relive what we've missed. What you're about to hear might make you uncomfortable, might even make you want to turn away. But precisely for that reason, you must face it, because if you don't, a day may come when you regret not hearing it sooner. The 7 truths you're about to hear are not cliches. They are lessons distilled from Stoic philosophy, a way of living that teaches us to confront reality, no matter how painful or harsh. I learned these things through my own experience, through loss, through collapse. I don't want you to have to suffer the same pain to understand. Take a few minutes to listen, because sometimes a few minutes can change the rest of your life. 1. We procrastinate and lose our lives. Have you ever told yourself, I'll start tomorrow? Tomorrow, I'll wake up early, exercise, learn a new skill, finally speak my truth, or begin that dream project I've been putting off. But then, tomorrow passes, and you still haven't started. Then it's next week, next month, and eventually the next year. Until one day you look back and realize you've lost so much time just waiting. The truth is, you're not postponing a task, you're postponing your life. We think we have more time, but that's a dangerous illusion. No one can guarantee how many days we have left to live, to love, to create something meaningful. Marcus Aurelius once reminded us, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. That's not meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up. We procrastinate because we're afraid. Afraid to fail, afraid of judgment, afraid we're not good enough, not ready. But the truth is, no one is ever truly ready. Even those you admire most began while still afraid, still doubting themselves. The difference isn't talent, it's choice. They chose to act, you chose to wait, and so you keep waiting for more confidence, more perfection, better conditions. But that enough never arrives. You think you're waiting for the right time, but really, you're feeding the habit of delay. Time doesn't wait for you to be ready. It keeps moving, silent, indifferent. Seneca said, while we wait for life, life passes. We live as if this is just a draft, as if we'll get another shot later. But this is the final copy. Every day you waste is a day you'll never get back. The scary question isn't, when will you die? It's, are you even alive right now? Are you living or just existing in a state of permanent postponement? Sadly, sometimes we delay not because we fear failure, but because we're obsessed with perfection. We wait until we can do it flawlessly, without mistake, without flaw. But perfection is a subtle trap. It keeps us in preparation mode forever. It convinces us that we're not ready, when in truth, action is what makes us ready. There is no ideal time, no perfect version of yourself in the future. There is only now, the only moment you truly own. Picture this. Someday, you're old, sitting in a worn-out chair, looking back on your life. What will you see? A long list of things you wanted to do but never began. Opportunities missed because you thought you had more time. A life that passed by and tomorrows that never came? Or will you see a life fully lived, where you dared to love, to fail, to try, and to live with passion? That choice isn't made in the future. It begins right here. Maybe you're waiting for more time, for life to get easier, for motivation to show up. But remember, there's never a perfect time to live the life you want. There's only the present. and it's slipping away with every second. The cost of procrastination isn't missing a task. It's losing the life you could have had. You can't control the future, but you can control what you choose to do today. If you don't start now, you may never start. And the real tragedy isn't death. It's reaching the end and realizing you never truly lived. 2. We're trapped in the past. You're alive. But are you truly living? Or is a part of you still trapped in a moment long gone, a memory that can't be changed, a wound you haven't released? Many people don't realize they're living in the past until the present slips through their fingers unnoticed. They wake up each day with minds replaying old mistakes, with what-ifs, should-haves, and if-onlys looping like a sorrowful soundtrack. But the past, whether beautiful or painful, is over. The only thing that remains is the present. And by clinging to what cannot be changed, you're sacrificing that present. We often think that being unable to let go of the past means we're loyal, that it proves we have a heart capable of remembering, of regretting, of loving deeply. But the truth is different. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Forget everything else. Keep hold of this alone. Each of us lives only now." You don't honor the past by reliving it every day. You're only letting a shadow that no longer exists govern your thoughts and feelings. You tie weights to your ankles and then complain you can't move forward. The past isn't holding you back. You are. I know that feeling. When you keep thinking, if only I'd done things differently, if I hadn't said that, if I'd taken another path, maybe things would have turned out better. But those thoughts only deepen the hole inside. You think punishing yourself every day for something already gone will redeem it or bring something back. But it won't bring anything except exhaustion. You can't fix the past, but you can own the present. And that only happens when you're willing to set the past down. Many live as if they're waiting for someone to rescue them. An apology, a confession, a moment that finally clears their name. But the truth is, no one else can do that for you. No one can give you peace except yourself. Epictetus once said, "If someone provokes you, know that your mind is complicit in the provocation." The same applies to the past. If it still hurts you, it's not because it has power, but because you've given it that power. You can cut that cord right now, or continue living like a prisoner with the cell door open, refusing to walk out. Imagine driving a car with your eyes fixed on the rear-view mirror. What would you see? The road already passed, the fading marks, the turns you can't make again. And then you crash into the wall ahead. That's exactly what happens to your life when you keep staring at the past and refuse to look forward. You can't begin the next chapter if you keep rereading the last. You can't grasp something new if your hands are still holding something lost. Forgiveness isn't about whether someone else deserves it. It's about whether you deserve peace. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means refusing to let it control you. Learn to be grateful even for the pain, because it taught you the lesson you needed. Seneca once wrote, "Begin at once to live, and count each separate day as a separate life." Today isn't a continuation of some sad story. It's a new beginning if you're willing to let it be. So ask yourself, how much longer will you live this way? 1 more year? 10? Your whole life? Or will you stand up today and step out of that memory? The past has done its job. Now it's your turn to live a life no longer bound by what once was. No one can do it for you, but you can. And you should start right now. 3. We fear death, yet don't fear a meaningless life. Human beings have long carried a fear of death. We avoid speaking of it, sidestep it in our thoughts and conversations. We plan for the future, hoard, protect, delay, as if we could somehow prolong the inevitable. But ironically, we rarely fear something far more dangerous, a life that is empty, dull, and without meaning. We worry about dying young, yet we do not fear wasting away in repetitive, emotionless days, devoid of purpose, too afraid to step out of our comfort zones. We push death away, but we nourish a way of living that is dying from within. The truth is, most people don't live. They merely exist. They wake up, go to work, eat, seek entertainment, and go to bed. A chain of days without direction, no questions asked, no challenges embraced, no fire that makes them feel truly alive. They do what's expected, follow the path laid out, suppress their dreams, thinking there will be another time, without realizing that another time may never come. Fear of death causes them to delay everything that truly matters, because they believe they still have time, still have chances, still have a someday. But as Seneca said, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Have you ever looked back at your past week and asked, did I do anything that truly mattered? Or were you swept up in shallow conversations, petty distractions, and mindless scrolling? What's sad is that we panic when we think about the end, yet feel perfectly at ease letting each day pass without living it fully. We fear the ending, yet fail to cherish the journey. We are terrified of death, yet indifferent as we slowly drain ourselves in a life without meaning. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live." And indeed, many people stopped living long ago, from the moment they traded passion for stability, from the moment they stopped asking, "What do I truly want?" From the moment they began living to please others instead of living as themselves. They didn't die at 70. They died at 30, when they chose silence, safety, and the slow erasure of who they truly were, just to fit in. We don't dare to live, not because we lack opportunity, but because we lack courage. To live meaningfully requires commitment. It asks you to walk away from the crowd, to reject hollow expectations, to accept failure, to face loneliness, to swim against the current when needed. It demands you abandon comfortable habits, artificial ease, and the cheap applause of others. That's why people settle for superficial living. It's easier, less painful, less risky, but the cost is a lingering emptiness, a life that leaves no trace in your memory. Imagine if tomorrow were your last day. What would you do? Would you still care what others think? Would you still hesitate in chasing your dream, or would you pour all your courage, love, and fire into truly living, loving, saying what you've never said, doing what you've always dreamed? If today were your final day, would you have regrets? And if so, why are you still living as if you were immortal? We cannot control death, but we can control how we live before it comes. And the irony is this: when you begin to truly live, you no longer fear dying, because death cannot take away a life that has already been fully lived. When you love deeply, live boldly, and work with purpose, whether life is long or short, you will leave in peace. Remember, death is certain, but a meaningful life is a choice, and you can choose it right now. 4. We fear silence because it forces us to face ourselves. Imagine sitting alone in a quiet room. No music, no phone, no one beside you, nothing to distract you, just you and yourself. At first, it might feel calm, but quickly, a sense of unease begins to creep in. Your mind stirs, not because of the outer world, but because of what's rising from within. The thoughts you've ignored, the questions you've avoided, the emotions you've long buried, all come into sharp focus. And that is why we fear silence. Not because it's boring, but because it is brutally honest. In a world flooded with noise, notifications, and busyness, we've grown used to being constantly filled. From the moment we wake, we grab our phones, read messages, scroll headlines, open apps. At work, we wear headphones, play background music, stream podcasts. At home, we turn on the TV, watch videos, text non-stop. Every minute is crammed with noise, not because we need it, but because we fear what might emerge without it. In silence, there is nowhere to hide. The masks fall off, the stories we tell ourselves stop working, and we're forced to face the one person we've always tried to avoid, ourselves. Silence is a ruthless mirror. It shows us how we're really living, what we're avoiding, how we're lying to ourselves. It reveals our insecurities, unmet desires, unhealed wounds, and the values we've lost while chasing the world's approval. It's no accident that Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "People try to escape everything, into the country, by the sea, in the mountains, but you can retreat at any moment into yourself." He understood that inner stillness is the most secure refuge, but also the one few dare to enter. The truth is, many people can't sit still with themselves for even a few minutes. One study showed that most participants felt extremely uncomfortable being alone in a quiet room with nothing to do. Some even chose to shock themselves just to feel something. That shows how terrified the modern mind is of facing itself. We've become so addicted to distraction that we've forgotten how to simply be. But true growth, true peace, does not come from filling your mind with noise, but from learning to hear yourself in the quiet. Throughout history, the greatest minds have sought silence. Nietzsche walked alone for hours to let his thoughts roam. Leonardo da Vinci sat for long stretches, watching the movement of water, light, and time. Marcus Aurelius kept a journal, not for others, but to have conversations with himself. They knew silence isn't emptiness. It's fertile ground where wisdom takes root. Stillness is where clarity begins. It's where the deepest questions are asked, where truth is no longer drowned out by the outside world. So, instead of running from silence, learn to walk into it like someone brave. Start small. Take a few minutes each day with no screens, no sound, no words, just you and your breath. At first, it'll be hard, uncomfortable, maybe even unbearable. But stay. Watch what comes up. Write if you need to, not to judge, but to understand. This is not punishment. It's a return to your inner home, where no performance is needed, no approval is sought, and you can simply be yourself. We fear silence because it strips us bare. But for that very reason, it also has the power to free us. It gives us a chance to stop running, to pause and look deeply, not to criticize, but to understand. When you stop fearing silence, you stop fearing yourself. And when you can be alone without feeling empty, that is when you are truly free. Not free from the world, but free from the confusion inside your own mind. And sometimes, everything you're searching for, peace, wisdom, direction, is waiting quietly in the silence you once tried to escape. 5. We mistake what truly matters. We often wake each morning with a long to-do list. Finish work, hit targets, answer emails, earn more, maintain an image, keep up with the world. We're so busy we assume we're living with purpose. But the truth is, the more we chase these things, the more exhausted and empty we feel. When night falls, the noise fades, and no one else is around. Do you feel peace? Or do you feel a hollow ache inside and don't know why? We get caught in the cycle of more money, more recognition, more accomplishments, as if those were the measure of human worth. We think if we're better, louder, more admired, we'll be happier. But we forget that approval from others is fleeting. They might praise you today and forget you tomorrow. And if your happiness depends on that, then you've placed it in someone else's hands. Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." That statement goes against nearly every message modern society promotes. We live in a culture that convinces you that you must have more than others to be valuable. But if you're living only to reach something ahead, a title, a number in your account, a label of success, then you're trading the present for an illusion. You're not living for yourself, you're living for the expectations of the crowd. When we misplace our priorities, we invest time and energy into what doesn't truly matter. We spend hours scrolling, comparing our lives to the curated highlights of others. We feel inferior simply because we don't own what society glorifies. The new car, the big house, the luxury vacation. But if you ask someone lying in a hospital bed, preparing to leave this world, they won't mention cars, homes, or job titles. They'll speak of honest conversations they once had, the moments they dared to love, to live, to be themselves. They'll regret the missed family dinners, the words of love left unspoken, the dreams once held but never pursued. And you'll realize what matters most isn't what we chase for years, but what we quietly overlook each day. The sad truth is, it's not that we don't know what matters. We do. We always have. We know that time with loved ones is more valuable than any meeting. We know a walk with someone we cherish means more than a business call. We know that the peace of living by our values can't be bought, but we ignore that truth because we're busy, because we think we'll make up for it later, because we're swept along by metrics we didn't choose. We trade our inner calm for validation from people who don't truly care. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Every time you spend an hour arguing online, mindlessly scrolling, or trying to please someone you don't even respect, you're throwing away your real life. And when you look back, you'll see it wasn't time you lacked, it was clarity on how to use it. It's time to ask yourself, what really matters to me? What makes me feel truly alive? Is it being present with someone I love? Is it doing what I know is right? Is it daring to live by my values even when no one agrees? If your answer doesn't match the things you chase each day, then maybe it's time to stop, reflect, and adjust your course. Because the real fear isn't failing to succeed. It's climbing all the way up, only to realize you were on the wrong mountain. 6. We try to control what's beyond our reach. We don't suffer because the world is cruel. We suffer because we constantly try to control what was never ours. We want everything to go our way, for the person we love to stay, for work to run smoothly, for our efforts to be rewarded, for life to be fair. And when that doesn't happen, we fall into disappointment, anger, confusion. But the truth is, we're fighting the wrong battle. A battle against reality, against the impermanence of life. It's a war that cannot be won. And the more we fight it, the more drained we become. We're caught in the illusion that if we're good enough, persistent enough, loving enough, then everything will stay. But life doesn't follow a formula. The one you love may leave, even after you gave your all. The opportunity may slip away, even after your tireless effort. Others may not value you, even when you've always been there. And when that happens, you blame yourself. Maybe I wasn't good enough. Maybe I did something wrong. But the moment you do that, you hand over control of your emotions to forces beyond your command. Epictetus taught, happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control, and some are not. That is the foundation of inner freedom. If you don't know what is truly yours and what isn't, you'll always be caught in a storm of unmet expectations and needless pain. You'll seek answers from those who can't give them. You'll chase recognition from places that will never offer it. You'll try to change the unchangeable and abandon the only thing you can govern, yourself. Think back to the last time you were hurt. Maybe you loved deeply but weren't loved back. Maybe you worked hard but were still overlooked. Maybe you trusted someone only to face betrayal. In those moments, we grieve not just for what we lost, but because we believed we could have controlled the outcome. But the truth is, you can't command someone else's feelings. You can't make someone stay. You can't force life to be fair. What you can and must control is how you respond, how you heal, how you uphold your dignity in the face of what you can't predict. Trying to control what isn't yours is like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you grip, the faster it slips away. The more you demand life to follow your script, the more it hurts when it doesn't. But when you let go, when you accept that not everything is yours to command, you don't become weak. You become free. You stop blaming yourself for outcomes you never controlled. You stop demanding others to understand, to reciprocate, to love the right way. You focus instead on what is truly yours, your actions, your thoughts, your character, your integrity. The world outside is chaotic, ever-changing, and often unfair. But instead of drowning in resentment, you can choose to be the one who isn't overwhelmed by it. You can still live well, still be kind, still be calm, not because the world is perfect, but because you've stopped handing your peace of mind to others. You can't change the weather, but you can carry an umbrella. You can't stop people from hurting you, but you can learn not to let those wounds define you. You can't control the current, but you can learn to swim, no matter how turbulent the water. And once you truly grasp this, everything begins to shift. Not because the world changed, but because you stopped waging war against what you cannot control. You return to yourself and begin to ask, is this mine to carry? What can I do right now? Who can I become in this situation? And as you answer those questions, you realize, peace was never out there. It has always lived in how you accept the world as it is and choose to be who you are, regardless. 7. We resist change, even though it's inevitable. Change is the essence of life. Everything in the universe is in motion. Time flows, leaves turn, people grow old, relationships bloom and fade, emotions come and go. Nothing remains the same forever. Yet even knowing this, we live as if things will always stay the same. We cling to the familiar, hold on to what is already breaking, beg life to stay still, simply because we fear stepping into the unknown. We don't fear change, we fear the loss of control it brings. We once had a stable job, a long-term relationship, a familiar lifestyle, and when those things began to crack, instead of accepting it, we resisted. We tried to patch a love that had gone cold, clung to a role that drained us, held on to a way of living we already knew no longer served us. Deep down, we told ourselves something is better than nothing, that even if our life wasn't joyful, at least it was familiar. And humans tend to choose what's familiar over what's right, even if that familiarity is what's imprisoning them. We forget that life itself is change. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Everything that happens is as natural as the blossom in spring and the fruit in summer." Change is not an anomaly, it is law. Yet we live as if youth will last forever, as if the people beside us will never leave, as if today's achievements guarantee tomorrow's peace. When reality proves otherwise, our pain doesn't come from the loss, it comes from expecting it to stay. We fight change because we believe it's taking something from us, but in truth, it is our resistance that hurts us most. Think back to the hardest moments in your life. Wasn't the pain mostly from your refusal to accept that things had changed? You didn't suffer because that person left, but because you weren't ready to live without them. You didn't suffer from losing your job, but because you thought it defined your worth. You didn't suffer from life-changing course, but because you were still attached to an old plan. It's the belief that things should have stayed the same that shatters us when life moves on. But change, if you look closely, always carries a hidden opportunity. A chance to begin again, to learn something new, to discover a different version of yourself. In a well-known story, a samurai loses everything when his house burns down in the night. When neighbors come to console him, he simply looks at the ashes and says, "Good, now I can begin again." That wasn't indifference. It was freedom. When you fear losing nothing, you are free. When you stop clinging, you can adapt, move forward, and grow. Change is not what you should fear. What you should fear is your refusal to change when everything else already has. When you resist the flow of life, you're not standing still, you're falling behind. You become rigid, exhausted, disconnected in a world that never stops evolving. Meanwhile, those who embrace change become more resilient, more balanced, more self-possessed. They don't rely on circumstances for stability, they create it within themselves. Through adaptive thinking, the courage to let go, and the clarity to know when a chapter has ended. Each day ask yourself, what is changing in my life? Am I resisting or learning to adapt? Am I holding on to something out of fear of loss or because it's still right for me? When you face the truth that nothing lasts forever, you begin to cherish every moment more deeply, and you stop panicking when those moments end. You can't control the flow of time, but you can learn to swim with it, not against it. And that's when you truly grow, not because you held on to everything, but because you learned when to let go. I used to be someone who feared change. I clung tightly to what was familiar, even when it no longer held value. I held on to relationships that had lost their sincerity, stayed in jobs that no longer fit, postponed important decisions simply out of fear of consequences. But life didn't give me a choice. Everything changed suddenly. People left, things collapsed, paths ended without warning, and I wasn't prepared. At first I resisted, I blamed, I tormented myself, but then I realized nothing can stay the same, and trying to control it only made me more exhausted. It was in those upheavals that I learned to let go. I learned not to identify myself with what had passed. I learned to walk forward without carrying old baggage. Change stopped being the enemy and became the teacher. It taught me to grow, to adapt, to live more honestly with myself. Even now, I still feel fear sometimes, but I no longer run. I've learned to keep moving, even when I don't feel ready, because I know it's only in motion that we are truly alive. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next content. Because sometimes, a single moment of stillness is enough to transform an entire life's journey. See you in the next video.